Okay, well, welcome everyone to our June 10 for 10 webinar series. We're so excited today to have Julie Ortiz. Julie is the president of Triage4Pediatrics. After graduating from the University of Arkansas, Julie worked at Children's Medical Center in Little Rock, cross-training in various departments. She was then a travel nurse for several years, working in NICU, PICU, and general pediatrics, and also worked for an insurance company doing telephone triage. It was there that she recognized the need for a complete service that provided after-hours advice the same way she did, with not just extensive experience, but genuine empathy and concern. And so Triage4Pediatrics was born. So welcome, Julie, again. We are so excited to have you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Krista Thompson, here with Clear Triage. We also have our team here helping today to manage the Q&A. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the conversation. If you've got questions for Julie, the best way to ask those questions is using that little Q&A box down at the bottom of Zoom, and we'll be monitoring that, and hopefully we'll have some time for questions as we are kind of wrapping up today. So welcome, Julie. We're so glad that you're here.
I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I think this is going to be fun. And I know I've been telling you as we kind of prepared for this week that so full disclosure, Julie and I have not had any of these conversations yet. We've been holding out to have them with you guys so that you could hear Julie's story, but I'm very excited to hear your story. So
Thank you.
yeah, so to get us started, do you want to just tell us a little bit about your journey in nursing, kind of what got you started in nursing, and then maybe a little bit about how you landed in pediatrics?
Sure. By the way, welcome everybody. I started nursing school. I had a family member that was very ill, and I was 18 at the time, and I saw how well that it was my mom that she was taken care of. And I decided at that moment, this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I went to nursing school. And at the time when I started, I had no idea what field I was going to go into. I honestly thought it would be adults. But I actually did my internship at Arkansas Children's. And that first day I was there, I knew. I was like, I'm doing pediatrics. And I never looked back. And I'm so glad that I did.
Yeah.
And I graduated in 92. So it's been over 30 years.
That time just flies, doesn't it?
It has flown by.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
has flown by. But yes, there is. I think that is one of the major things, if not the most important thing that I've ever done in my life, is becoming a nurse. I'm very proud of that fact.
I feel the same way, and I would imagine that probably many nurses share that feeling as well. So
Yes.
okay, so you went directly into peds out of nursing school.
Yes.
And then at some point you transitioned from the bedside to telephone triage with an insurance company.
Yes.
Okay.
I
So
work for an insurance company.
okay, awesome. And then with that kind of led you then to the founding of your company. So tell us a little bit about that. How did you make that leap? What happened there that helped you to realize that this was something you wanted to take on?
So, keep in mind too, when I started working for the insurance company, it was about 27, 28 years ago. And at the time, there was not pediatric specific triage that I had ever heard of, nothing like there is today. So, and we didn't have the protocols really. So, we would answer the phone and it was very much all business. Like you sent them into the ER or told them they're good. And I felt like, one of the things that was always missing was empathy. And I'm very big about that. I'm very big about connecting with the parents, the caregivers, whoever is calling in. I think that is so important. And I thought, there has to be a better way than what we're doing. I had also worked, for a couple of other triage companies, like as a contract a little bit here and there for a couple of offices. But, it's funny because one night I was just like, I'm just going to see what happens, and started my company. I remember going
Oh,
downstairs to my husband and said, I think I'm going to start a business. And he goes, okay. So he fully supportive from day one. And next thing I knew, I had it going, and and I just celebrated my 20th year anniversary.
that is so
20 years, hard to
congratulations.
believe. Yes. And so I just I've not regretted 1 second of it. And I know we'll discuss that, I'm sure. But yeah, I just felt like there needed to be a service that really touched on not only being knowledgeable, but being empathetic. I
Yeah,
wanted to be a nurse.
yeah,
And that's what it's all about. We're all caregivers, right?
right.
So yeah, and that's how Triage4Pediatrics was born.
I love that. So when you started,
Mhm.
was it just you, or did you start with employees?
It was just me for
Okay.
several months. And then I remember hiring my first employee.
Yeah.
And I was so proud of myself because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, we're getting busy. I have one nurse now. Now, just to give you an idea, we have, I think, close to 80
Wow.
nurses.
Okay.
But yes, so it was me. I would do call nonstop for hours. When I first started the company, there were days that I would just sit in my office for hours and hours, not eating. My husband would finally like bring me something to eat.
Uh,
But again, I enjoyed it so much,
yeah.
but yeah, it's been very exciting.
Well, and to look back at that, where you started and where you are now. I mean, from taking calls 24/7 on your own and not eating to
Yes.
to growing a company, and now you employ 80 nurses. That's pretty incredible. And 20
Thank
years in
you.
business. So
Yeah. Thanks.
congratulations. Were there any were there any challenges that you can share in the starting of that company outside of, I guess, not eating? Um, what
Besides
were the
that, no, of
yeah,
course. I mean, anytime you start any business, and I think especially medical, to be quite honest, there were a lot of challenges. I think, because I wanted to make sure from day one that the service that I was going to offer was exceptional.
yeah,
And I'm very happy to say it has been like that since day one. But I also want to throw in there one thing. I could not do this without my nurses.
yeah,
They get 100% of the praise because it's great. I started a company, and yes, I feel like I run it well, but without them, Triage4Pediatrics would not be where it is today, not even close.
I love
So,
that.
as far as challenges, I think the main one has been hiring the right people. For me, I'm very type A and OCD a little bit, and maybe a little bit controlling with the company. And it took me quite a few years to even let little things like give to somebody else to do. So I
Yeah,
had all that pressure on me because I knew, we were doing such an important job taking care of these patients after hours, and they were depending on us to make sure their child is well taken care of.
yeah,
So, it was finding the right people for me was the biggest challenge. Um, and even at the beginning, to being on call 24/7, and to be quite honest, I'm still pretty much on call 24/7. I always have my phone. Uh, my nurses can attest to that because, I know how important this is
yeah,
to have a service for these kids that need, and these parents that, they can have either one kid or three, they still call in and they're like, well, this third one's way different than the other two. So, I just, as far, and, marketing at first, because getting your name out there and getting people to trust you, it takes a few years of dedication and to really work at it and work at it. You have to be willing to work hard. You have to be willing to do the calls, all of it, keeping up with the guidelines, making sure everything is in place. It's a lot, but I
yeah,
don't regret it at all. Even throughout the challenges, maybe because it's a little bit easier now than what it was at the beginning. But, I will always tell anybody, if this is your passion and this is what you want to do, go for it. there's plenty of people out there that need help, whether it's pediatric triage, adult triage, or whatever that you want to do. I did it. I'm still, even today, it's been 20 years, but I still sit here and go, wow, I really did this. I
It
really
is
started this
helpful.
company and it's been 20 years. And I
Yeah.
never thought that it would get to be this size or this big or this well known. Never.
Yeah. No, that's an incredible accomplishment, and you should be very proud. Because
Thank you.
and in listening to you talk, you can tell how much work you put in and still put in,
Mm.
um, on a daily basis. I'm curious to know, so you touched a little bit about how, just making that connection with the patient or the
Right.
call, having empathy. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how that's kind of shaped your business, or been, maybe is that a differentiator for you, or what do you do? How do you use that? How do you drive that within your company? And I think many nurses inherently,
I think so too. You're right.
those skills, but I'm sure that there's some teaching or coaching, that you do as well. So if you could share
Right.
anything about that,
So
that might be helpful.
here, yeah, and here's what I always tell every single nurse that I've ever worked with. When a caregiver calls in, you can have a nurse that is 100% knowledgeable. She knows the Barton Schmidt protocol. She knows everything, like could just recite it off the top of her head, right?
Mhm.
Versus a nurse, let's say she's very knowledgeable, maybe not as, knows her stuff, but she's got also this other component. And you know what it is? It's empathy. And she can connect with those parents. And I always say, you make that connection within the first 90 seconds of the call.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, that parent remembers the
Yeah.
nurse that took that step to make that connection. That parent wants to feel heard. Most of the time when they call in, they just want to feel heard. They want somebody to say, I understand. Let me help you through this. We're going to get you through the night, or, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So I think that is something I've always insisted upon every nurse that works for me. And, you cannot teach that. I have learned that over 20 years. You cannot teach empathy to somebody. You can teach the protocols, you can teach how to document, how to do the computer, whatever, but it's that special something that nurse has to have. And not everybody has it. If you cannot connect with the parent and you don't have that, relationship with them from the very beginning, I
Yeah.
just feel like the call will be lacking. Not saying that, the patient's not taken care of, but when
Yeah.
I hear from parents or compliments from the office, over and over, it's that they just said how great she was, how nice she was, how caring. And that's what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's especially, important in pediatrics when you've got parents
Yes.
calling that are nervous about
Yes.
children. I think that's important in all areas of telephone
Yes.
triage, but there is something special about pediatric nurses and telephone triage.
Yes.
You're talking with nervous parents,
Yes.
trying to
Yes. And I
address.
don't blame them for being
Yeah,
nervous. I mean, that is their most loved, prized thing in the whole world. That is, everything to them. And
yeah,
so that's why it's so important to me to make them feel, comfortable when they call in.
yeah. I mean, I know that even as a parent myself, right? So I'm a
Oh,
nurse.
yeah.
Um, but if it's to do with my children, I still want to talk with another nurse,
Hmm.
and review things, because all of that knowledge seems to leave
Go out the
my brain
window.
when it's my own children. Um,
Yes.
I become completely irrational.
I
Um,
think we all do though. Because,
yeah,
even if I have a family member sick or anything, it's like I just completely forget that I'm a nurse. And I think everybody can relate to that. It's
yeah,
easier when you can, set yourself outside and you see the situation. But when you're in the middle of it, it's a whole different thing. And I think we need to remember that when talking to these caregivers when
yeah,
they call in.
yeah. No, I completely agree with you, and I love how you've emphasized that within your business, and likely that's been a huge driver of your success, I would guess.
I
Uh,
think so.
well, so so kind of in that, in that kind of line of conversation there, what do you feel like makes a triage nurse truly exceptional? Is it that empathy, just having that gift? Are there other things? What do you look for in your triage nurses?
So obviously, empathy. The number one is having knowledge, right? So all of us that are probably watching, we've done triage. I mean, we know the protocols, that sort of thing. But you have to have that knowledge base to know which protocol to go to, right? And that as a nurse.
Yeah.
Like you have to know, oh, this sounds like it's going to be croup. Let me go to the croup protocol, sort of thing. So you have to have a fine balance of both, not only knowledge, empathy. Great at having a phone voice. I'll never forget this. I interviewed a nurse once, and within 2 minutes, she goes, "I just want to be up front. I don't like talking on the phone." And I'm thinking, why are you interviewing for this? So
It's not the job for
it's
you.
yeah. When I hire somebody, I look for the whole package. And
Okay.
I think the main thing is that I've done in the past is when we interview a nurse, I want to know, would I want that nurse talking to my family member? Would
Okay.
I want them to take care of my family? If the answer is no, then I don't hire them.
So, if there are nurses on this call today that might be thinking about making a move career-wise,
Mhm.
what advice would you give them when they are looking for jobs or interviewing? What traits or skills are you kind of looking for specifically in that hiring process? What advice?
Yeah. I think one of the main things that I think people they don't realize is this is completely different than bedside. So, I've over 20 years, you interview a lot of people. And I feel like if they can really learn to assess over the phone, because it's way different. You cannot see that patient. So
Yeah.
you have to be able to assess that patient over the phone. You have to be able to teach that parent, for example, how to count respirations,
Yep.
take a rectal temperature, whatever it is that you need to, get from that parent to help you. Because to me, I tell my nurses, it's like a puzzle, right? You can't see it, but you depend on that parent or your own ears. I mean, I've heard kids when we triage, I can listen to a kid and know if they have croup, if they're in respiratory distress, whatever the case is. It's amazing to me still today what you can find out over the phone. You just have to ask the right questions,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
yeah, absolutely. You do. Those questions are important. And obviously the protocols, the Barton Schmidt protocol,
Yes,
for you guys, I'm sure are helpful.
everything.
Do your nurses typically, do they have some triage background when they're coming to you, or not necessarily?
We definitely want that. So
Okay.
pediatric experience is a must,
Okay.
obviously, because we only do pediatrics. So if they don't have like doctor's office, pediatric ER, those kind of things, NICU, newborn nursery, then, that's what I'm looking for is that kind of experience. I have had nurses that have never done triage, but let's say they worked in PICU.
Hmm.
They're knowledgeable nurses and they can pick up on those protocols very good. Whereas, I've had nurses, and this is just me being honest, that have done triage in the physician's office, but they don't feel comfortable doing
Yeah.
it without the physician standing right there. So,
Yeah.
and by the way, if you are wanting to get in this field and you do have pediatric experience, send me an email because we are hiring, just to throw that plug in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you absolutely can throw that plug in there. And I'm sure, I don't know that we have your email address to display today, but I'm pretty sure if you Google Triage for Pediatrics,
Yes,
you can find your website and
absolutely.
information.
And my email is on there and everything. So you can email
There we
me a
go.
resume.
That's perfect. So if you're taking nurses then who have that pediatric experience and maybe not necessarily telephone triage experience,
Mhm.
how do you train them then for telephone triage? Um, and specifically, I'm curious then about the protocols as well, how you kind of work that into the training.
Yes. So when we hire someone, when we train pretty extensively,
Mhm.
we have them, I mean, we give them tests, we have them study the protocols. At first, they observe one of the trainers doing calls, listen to them on the phone. It's pretty extensive training. So, some people, they don't make it all the way through. And then we listen to them for quite a while, to
Okay.
them doing calls. And we can always, if there's any doubt, I mean, we'll jump in. And, we know pretty quickly within several sessions whether this is for them or not. And I think also the potential nurse knows whether this is something they want to do or not. And I believe with triage, you either love it or you don't.
Yeah.
And that's, because it's so specialized. It's for me. That's what I think to and but it's very rewarding that to be able to assess somebody and learn how to assess somebody over the phone and learn those skills, and to
Mhm.
be able to be so independent in doing it is pretty remarkable for people. Also we do QA, but listen in on calls, we do test calls. So, before any nurse is ever put out on their own, we know that they're good and that they feel comfortable. Not only that, though, we also have supervisors right there that, they can text or call if they have a question. But yes, they have to know those protocols. And I'm so grateful for Barton Schmidt protocols. And I'm not just saying that because you're with Clear Triage, but
I think
truly,
we all of us, in nursing and telephone triage specifically, are
yeah,
grateful for those protocols.
definitely. Because, it's about consistency of care. I
Right.
always tell my nurses, if you follow those protocols, you're going to be okay. If
Right.
you follow them, that's all you need to worry about. Because let's say that patient calls back the next day or even a few hours later, it's the same advice that that first nurse gave
Right.
because they're going to the same protocol.
There's that consistency nurse
Yeah.
to nurse as far as how they're being triaged. No, that makes complete sense. I had a thought. Oh, I was going to ask you, are your nurses working remotely?
Yes.
Okay, so everybody's remote at this point.
Yes. They are all remote.
And you're based in Texas,
Yes.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right outside of Dallas. But I have nurses all over the United States.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So we talked about kind of what advice you might give to nurses who are looking to go into triage. Is there any advice that you might give to nurses who are looking to start a business?
Yeah, absolutely.
What wisdom do you have that you can share maybe on that side of
Yeah,
things?
sure. Number one, make sure you're doing this for the right reason. You know, don't, because it takes a lot. I mean, I'll be honest with you, 20 years of my life has flown by before I knew it. And I did miss out on important things with my family or not doing this. Do I regret it? Not at all. I know that I was meant to do this. But, my first advice is make sure this is what you want to do because it is a 24/7. When you're the owner of a company, you don't really get vacations. At least I didn't. I always have my phone. But, and hire the right people and make sure that you're doing the right thing as far as having the clear triage protocols, using Barton Schmidt, having malpractice. Just make sure that you're doing the right thing from day one. But having a solid team is everything. I cannot say that enough.
Um, Random question.
Sure.
I'm
Uh-oh.
curious.
Go
Do
ahead.
you remember your first customer?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Everybody remembers their first customer.
Yes. I
How
remember
did
my
you
first
find
customer.
how'd
I
you
remember
find
the first call.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was
Yeah.
so excited. I mean, I'll never forget. At the time, we had pagers. This is how long
Right.
ago it was. And I remember my pager going off. I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody's really calling me.
Someone needs me.
Yes. But, I look back and I'm like, because now I think we have over, I think 280 offices or something.
Oh, wow.
I remember though when, we just had, I remember my first office, the second office. And even when I had 30 providers, I was like, wow, I'm big now. Now
Yeah.
we're almost 2,000. But,
Yeah.
the, and you asked me, the other thing that I want to say too is, make sure, again, that you're ready for this commitment because it's hard work. And I would say that with any business, right? I know you had a business at once.
Yep.
It's a full commitment,
Yes.
but I suggest anyone, if you want to do this, do it. You're not going to know until you try it.
Right.
No, it's not easy, but it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that grit and determination and sticking with it in those moments, as you were talking about, where,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
you and you're working full days all day long, and
Oh, yeah.
not eating, but all of that hard work has paid off.
It
So
has definitely paid off. And I would say, not to scare anybody off, but the first 10 years are a little hard,
yeah,
very hard. But again, I wouldn't change a thing. It taught me to be a better nurse. It taught me to be a better person. And I think the most valuable thing that I've learned is how many opportunities I've given for nurses to work from home
yeah,
and to have a job.
yeah, yeah.
That's one of the things I love the most.
And to do that, to go into this specialty of telephone triage where you are making those connections over
Mhm.
the phone and growing your assessment skills, and yeah, no, that's great. Is there anything else or any final words of encouragement, and maybe specifically words of encouragement if there are nurses listening who are looking to innovate or make a career change?
Yeah, even from day one, let me tell you, I mean, and I know you said I was a travel nurse and all that. I always wanted to do different stuff. I
Yeah.
was just, and that I would get in a job.
Nursing.
Yes. I mean, that's what the great thing is about nursing, right? There's so many fields to go into. There's so many avenues that you can do. And it's been that way for me since day one. So, and I would often have 2 or 3 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I think that if you want it bad enough, you can do it. And I want everybody to do well. If this is my dream was to start this company.
Yep.
So if that's your dream, no matter what business, if it's triage, any kind of nursing business, if this is what you truly want to do, go for it. Don't let anybody stop you. I had people, tell me, "Man, you sure you want to get into this? There's a lot of competition out there, or why don't you just go work on the floor?" Because that's not what I want to do.
Right.
So you have to be very determined and believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, nothing can stop you.
I love that. I love it. Okay. Well, let's see, we've got a couple of minutes here. If anyone has questions, drop those in the Q&A. Julie, there is a question in the Q&A. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this.
Okay, I'll try. If I can, I'll be honest.
If not, that's fine. But someone is asking, how much malpractice insurance do you recommend for a triage nurse?
So, well, it depends. Like my limits right now, I think are like 2 million, 6 million or something like that. So it depends. Like, for example, University of Vanderbilt, that's one of my contracts. Because of that contract, my limits have to be, as high as they can be. Because, and you have to have everything, cybersecurity, terrorism, I mean, everything you can imagine. But so that I suggest high limits. Also, every individual nurse that works for me also has their own malpractice.
Okay. Okay. And so I guess find a good insurance company and
Yes.
work with them probably to determine
Yeah. And I
limit.
think when you're starting out, if you're just starting out, you don't have to go that high,
Yeah.
at the very beginning. But once if you do this and you start to get big contracts, then yeah,
Sure.
you have to get higher limits.
That makes sense. You do also have a comment here from Kelly. Not a question, but just want to say I love working for Triage4Pediatrics.
Let me guess. Which Kelly? Is it Kelly Ballinger, maybe? I
Nope.
have several Kellys.
Kelly Peterson.
Hi, Kelly. Yes. Oh, that's so good. Yes, my nurses, some of them I know are here to support me today.
I love
So, yes.
that.
And like I've always said, anytime you become an owner of a business, the minute that you don't realize that it's because of your staff that you're good, to me, that's when you just might as well give it up.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that make this business run.
Yes. Yeah. And are talking with
The
uh,
parents.
the parents and the callers and
Yes,
are kind of the face of the company on that side of things. So absolutely.
absolutely. 100%.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Julie, for being with us today. This has been so fun. Is there anything else that you would like to share before we sign off?
First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's been
Hey.
awesome. And, the other thing is that, again, if anyone has any questions or you're interested in a job, reach out to me. I am more than willing to help. And, I want people, especially nurses, to succeed in business,
Yeah.
you know? So if you're wanting to get out of that bedside thing, I did the bedside for years. I mean, I've been a nurse for over 30 years. So my first 10 to 12 years were, at the bedside or in a pediatric office. And so if you're wanting to do that, let me know.
And then someone else. Okay, before we close up here. Oh, not a question, but I echo that I've loved this opportunity with Julie and Triage. Best
Oh,
job ever. I was there in the early years with the pagers and a few offices. So
let me guess. And I can't see, I can't see. I'm going to guess Shelly.
yeah, yeah, good.
Shelly has been with me for years and she remembers. In fact, we talked last week and she's like, she remembers when we only had just a very few offices. So the
Uh,
thought that this has grown so much is
yeah,
still, I still today go, I'm in shock.
yeah. No, it's pretty incredible. And congratulations,
Thank you.
Julie. And again, thank you so much for spending this time with us here today. I know this has been it's been a fun conversation for me to have,
Yes.
and I'm sure that others on the call listening today feel the same way. And also just appreciate all of the wisdom that you've shared today. So thank
Oh,
you.
you're so welcome. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining us for this 10 for 10 webinar. Our next webinar is coming up in July, and we are going to be talking with our co-founders of Clear Triage, Dave Schmidt and Pete Allen, about kind of their story and where we're headed with the future of Clear Triage. So that webinar is coming up July 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. You can register on our website, cleartriage.com /10 for 10. We'll also be sending out a recording of this probably this afternoon or sometime tomorrow. And that recording will also have a link to register for that next upcoming webinar. So let us know if you've got any questions. You can email us at support@cleartriage.com, or again, can go find Julie's website, Triage4Pediatrics, and reach out to her if you've got anything to share, or again, want to forward your resume along. So thanks again, Julie. Thanks everybody for being with us today. This has been a great discussion, and we'll see you next time.